you. Let's get to Beijing. Mark, what are Chinese officials saying about this?
You know, it's interesting. We've heard a lot of talk between the United States and China lately about trying to create a competitive business relationship between the two nations. But then we have this lingering wound being TikTok. In fact, Becky, it was almost a year ago to the day that we were talking about a hearing involving TikTok. But the feeling from Beijing is really portraying the United States almost as a weak competitor in the global arena. Just a few hours ago here in Beijing, I talked to a spokesperson from China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I asked him, regardless of what happens with United States lawmakers, there is this feeling of distrust toward Chinese companies from American lawmakers, but also American citizens. Let's take a listen as to what he had to say.
Even though the U.S. has not found evidence on how TikTok endangers its national security, it has never stopped going after TikTok. Such practice of resorting to acts of bullying, when one could not succeed in fair competition, disrupts the normal operation of the market. It undermines the confidence of international investors and sabotages the global economic and trade order. This will eventually backfire on the U.S. itself.
I also asked the spokesperson, are you, being the Chinese government, are you advising TikTok on how to conduct itself, how to handle these hearings? But the response I got was pretty much the same response as you just heard.
DNA tests are illegal in Israel. Ask me why.
It's even illegal in the state of Israel to obtain this. And if you do obtain it, it's illegal to show it and or talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, my DNA. Now you might ask yourself, why is it illegal to obtain this in the state of Israel? Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties to the land of Israel.
I mean, duh. It doesn't take a PhD or an article from a Jewish newspaper to tell you that Caucasians practicing a religion aren't native to a place where people have been brown for millennia.
This TikTok caused a storm online, with many debating what his results, which show no trace of being from Palestine or the Middle East, despite being Jewish, mean. Yet, in the state of Israel, getting hold of a genealogical DNA test is highly restricted. Yet Dov Aharonov and the Jerusalem Post reported in 2019 that Israel's genetic information law blocks people from buying them from local pharmacies.
I guess boober Zionists think that if you just throw enough money at troll farms and you don't let people Google 23andMe in Israel, that they'll forget that they're not Middle Eastern. Like, it's not Jesus of Williamsburg, it's Jesus of Nazareth, right? I mean, that's fine. Like, there are dark Jews. There's Jews from Brazil, there's Jews from Ethiopia, and up until the 19th century, everybody was living in Palestine pretty peacefully. Well, I guess until the Nakba, when they got displaced or killed alongside the Muslims and the Christians. I guess even back then, in the middle of the desert, if you have a brown neighbor, I guess property values go down. I don't make the rules, but they sure as hell are racist as So then, if Caucasian Jews don't come from the Middle East, duh, where do they come from? I do not want to be called anti-Semitic, even if I've got Harvard in the background. So I'm just going to let another Ashkenazi geneticist tell you where you come from.
Surprisingly, GPS took us to northeastern Turkey. At first, we did not understand the results, but when we looked at some old books, we found 4 ancient villages named Ishkenaz, Eskenaz, Ashenaz, and Ashkuz, names that may be derived from the word Ashkenaz. This place resides on a hub of trade networks. This is where Silk Roads and other trade routes converge.
That's Aaron Al-Hayek. He's a Jewish geneticist from Johns Hopkins who wanted to figure out where Caucasian Jews come from because, you know, like map out genome, get ahead of diseases. His contact in Israel is Dr. Aurelia Oppenheim. She's a geneticist in the University of Jerusalem, and she runs the anti-aging department. And for a while, the government called both of these two Nazis. Would you like to know why? Because they both figured out where Caucasian Jews come from. Wink, wink. They're 40% Turkish and newsflash, 40% Mongolian. As if the lactose intolerance didn't give it away. Like, hold on. Do you understand what this means? Like, okay, sure. Like, you don't have any ancestral tie to Israel, but like you don't have yellow fever. You're just dating your own race. Like real talk. What do you see in this picture? Like, is it a pierogi or is it a dumpling? Like, you say gefilte fish, I just see fish balls without the soup. Like, brother!
I believe the House has voted on banning TikTok bill. And there's been talk over the last 12 months, I'd say. Maybe I'm overestimating, maybe it's 9 months. Last 9 to 12 months of TikTok being a problem. And this is a great case study in how propaganda works. They had to talk about how scary TikTok was and how they were stealing your information and what they could do with the information. They had to plant those stories 12 plus months ago in order for this to happen today, without there to be people running at the protesting at the doors of the Capitol. Even though I think this should have you protesting at the doors of the Capitol. If you don't know what fascism looks like, and a lot of times when you're in the middle of something, you don't recognize that what is going on. Like if you're in a genocide, or if you're in an apartheid state, or if you're in all of us know, but I mean, you may not know what's going on. But with the banning of TikTok, to me, this is a clear illustration or example of fascism. They keep talking about Trump bringing fascism. This is an election between fascism and democracy. Really? This is an election between fascism and fascism with a rainbow flag. That's what this is a difference between. And anytime, this is a telltale sign here, okay? Anytime, let me put it this way, name something that the United States Congress does at warp speed that benefits the working people, the average American. Name anything. Now, separate question. Now, of the things that our government, the U.S. government, does at warp speed, is there a common sort of subject, topics? War. Ukraine money, that can be overnight. Israel money, that could be overnight. They got bills right now sitting to be signed for Ukraine and Israel. Labeling anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism because our government is bought by the Zionist lobby, that's overnight. I forget what they said about socialism. They did some other resolution about socialism overnight. We need help on this minimum wage. The parliamentarian says. That's the United States government. Now, so the point that I'm trying to make is that our government does nothing warp speed that is good. And this latest example is does not divert from the tree. Overnight, within a few days, this bill is getting passed. It can be on the president's desk by today or tomorrow, whatever they say. I forget when they said the Senate might take it up, if they take it up. During COVID, I remember it was July. I can't remember what year. I remember during COVID, the COVID money was running out. There was a deadline for them to do something before they went on recess. Mitch McConnell and them took the keys and left and went home. Y'all remember that? I forget what year, but I just remember it was the end of July is when it expired. Anything for us, there's no warp speed. That is crazy that during a pandemic, we can't get warp speed on a pandemic. So there was a couple of videos I started out with. The first video was just showing you what the version of corporate media is saying. Of course, they're saying it's some sort of legitimate reason, which is just a bogus cover story. It's such a flimsy cover story to have, but it's what they're using. And then I showed this video about DNA tests being outlawed or severely restricted in Israel, because this is the content that the U.S. empire wants to prevent. This is the content that is being targeted by the legislation on this bill. Videos that expose the empire, videos that exposes the empire's friends, like the Zionists over in Israel. So again, for the sake of editing, I'm going to replay this because this was the intro. Let's listen to the type of information that's on TikTok, and you tell me why they would want to ban something like this.
DNA tests are illegal in Israel. Ask me why.
It's even illegal in the state of Israel to obtain this. And if you do obtain it, it's illegal to show it and or talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, my DNA. Now you might ask yourself, why is it illegal to obtain this in the state of Israel? Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties to the land of Israel.
I mean, duh, it doesn't take a PhD.
Do you think Jonathan Greenblatt over at the ADL, do you think this is something that would piss him off? A video like this? Do you think AIPAC would watch this video and go, wow, this is a great history lesson here? Or would they look at this and be like, God damn it, we got to do something about TikTok? What is so, for me, I don't know if anybody else has this feeling. This is chilling to me because there's so many things that have been chilling. There's so many different examples that we've had in the last 12 to 24 months that clearly show we are blatantly not living in a democracy. For people to still believe that is so surprising to me, that they still, even if you believe that 24 months ago, it's just astonishing to me. From COVID and that freaking, we don't even need to go into that, but we all know, from the COVID debacle to Russiagate, to this Ukraine war. I mean, it's just so many things, but let's stick here before I go off on this tangent. The point being, the content that's on TikTok challenges the U.S. empire narrative on so many different things. And I believe the protest, the pro-Palestinian protest, is really made them have to pay attention to, wow, we had no idea, because that's the reaction, that's the feeling I get, and that's what we were saying in our streams, Nick and I, and everybody was saying, like, it felt like the establishment was surprised at the protests. Like, it caught them off guard. They thought it was going to be like a couple of days. Oh, this is over. They were surprised at the sustained protest. They were surprised at the organizing that was taking place on college campuses. So they was like, what the fuck is going on here? How do we regain control? Where are young people viewing these videos? And then they go, TikTok, what? Colonization, occupation, what the fuck? You get what I'm saying? This is the reaction. Now, if you take away TikTok, do you think that takes away the knowledge that people got from TikTok? Like, do they think that people are going to go, oh, TikTok's gone, now I'm going to support Israel? Like, is that the clownish sort of reaction? Or are they just trying to, like, do harm reduction? Just prevent it from getting any worse than it is now. What I also wanted to do is show some more video. But let's first go back to the corporate version. Let's just get a baseline for their nonsense. And there might be I'll check and see if there's an update to this, because this video was uploaded from CNN, I think 5 hours ago. So I don't know if there's an update. But let's listen to what corporate media, CNN, is saying about fascism. Now, of course, they can't call it fascism. So anytime anything the government want to do, they have to create fear so that you choose fear over your rights. So with TikTok, the fear is China's taking our information hunting. And I'm like, what information are they getting? For example, on my account, not my real name, and I'm going to show you in a second. Compton J, that's not my real name. I can put in any birth date as long as I'm 18. It'll let me open the account. So what exactly is the information that China can even gather that's actual real usable information, even if that was true? But they just say this. And they don't say it. They just say it where it's like, and then you go, where's the proof? It's just trust me. Just trust me, bro. Vibes. That's it. It's unsubstantiated. But let's listen to corporate media. That's the framing. Fear. China, China, China.
Well, teenagers don't often pay close attention to US congressional votes, but they may be doing that today because what's happening, about to happen in Washington is hugely important to that younger demographic. Next hour, the House of Representatives is set to vote on a bill that would force TikTok to divest itself of its Chinese ownership or be banned in the United States.
Now, just to clarify, this was 1 hour before the vote. We are now 2 or 3 hours after the vote, so they've already passed it. So just under what the framing understand is past tense now. So it's already passed.
Now, the legislation comes amid deep concerns about China's ability to access TikTok users' personal data and possibly use that to influence, for example, the November elections. Well, TikTok pushing back with a message encouraging users to contact their representatives and urge them to oppose this bill. Well, we are covering every angle of this story with Lauren Fox, who is on Capitol Hill. Mark Stewart is in Beijing, and Claire Duffy is in New York.
Now, understand, this presentation they're giving is not at all for information. You have 4 people that are paid by the empire to come on and represent state lies as news. So when you're watching news, you really have to understand these people are not at all trying to give you information to be informative. So with that said, let me let it play some more before I go into a rant here.
New York for us. Lauren, let's start with you. Why are so many lawmakers so exercised about this, so worried about TikTok?
Now, a real reporter, you know how when you're in school, how they tell you what a reporter is, and the press and the Constitution, they make it out like the press, they're out there digging dirt in our government and uncovering corruption. So what a real reporter, according to the fantasy they taught us, in grade school about what the press should be doing, she should be coming in saying, "Oh, this is a lot about nothing." You see, CNN host, the empire is really mad that young people are sharing true information peer to peer instead of going through them and accepting their lies. That's what a reporter should be saying, according to the fantasy of the press that they sold us in grade school about the Constitution. Let's continue and let's see how she does the exact opposite.
Yeah, this has been building for a long time on the Hill, and their key concern is the national security implications of teenagers and Americans at large using this app. Many lawmakers don't.
It is such a like slam dunk selling point for Western countries, Western sovereignist countries. Fear is such a centerpiece because I mean it's a lot of reasons, but fear of the other is such a integral part to the sort of Western framing, Western ideology, Western point of view. And it's in everything from, home security, this and there. And I just was listening on Sean Hannity commercial I was listening to Sean Hannity on the radio, had a commercial where I think they're selling something to protect your house deed now, where somebody that monitors if anybody's ever, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's just fear on top of fear they use to sell so much stuff. But to me, it's an indication, it's a self-reflection that when you've done so much wrong in the world, you put so much wrong karma out, you know what I'm saying? You're always like, fear of retaliation, of revenge. But anyway, I'm on a rant. Let's continue here.
Don't use it themselves because of concerns about their data being shared with the Chinese government. The other concern that exists here is one of which some members who are voting against this bill say that they do not want to take away the freedom of users to operate this app. Now, I think that those two things exist in some ways, not in a vacuum, but lawmakers are going to be having this vote today on the House floor. It's going to require a 2/3 majority. They're bringing it under a suspension of the rules, which means...
Did you hear what she said? Needs a 2/3 majority. And like I said, it's already passed. So that means it already got 2/3 majority. Can we get 2/3 majority on Medicare for all? Can we get 2/3 majority on $15 minimum wage, which is $20 short? We can't get that.
It would have to get a huge number of bipartisan members, Republicans and Democrats, to back it. And leaders are very confident that they are going to be able to get there, despite the fact that there are some Democrats who are warning that this could have political implications for President Joe Biden when he tries to rally the youth vote to the polls. Here's what they said.
I don't think it'll be helpful with young voters, but my argument here, yes, it has to do with young people, but taking a step back, I just think it's bad policy.
Successful politics is addition and multiplication, and cutting out a large group of young voters is not the best known strategy for re-election.
Now, President Joe Biden has said that he plans...
Now, to that point, hasn't that phrase that I think his name is Dick Durbin said, this doesn't seem like a good strategy? Haven't we said, how many times have we said that about the Biden administration? They fumble the ball on student loan. Like, why are you picking to wipe out student loan this way? You should use the higher learning. They fumble the ball on the strike breaking. Anyway, let's get back before I go off. I have a lot to get to, so I want to make sure I do, and I have to get out of here within 2 hours.
To sign this bill if it gets to his desk, but if the House can get it out of their chamber today, it then goes to the United States Senate, and the future is a little less certain over there. But
yeah, in the Senate, there is an American that has I think 20 or 30% stake in the company that owns TikTok, so he is lobbying heavily in the Senate trying to get this stopped. But I think this is really a pressure campaign to get the Chinese company to sell, because this doesn't go into effect right away. It goes 6 months. You have 6 months to sell before you have to divest. Something like that is the wording. But this is them trying to pressure the company to sell, because in the hands of an American company, they're going to tell you that it's safe. Your information is safe. Is it? Or they're just going to, they have so much confidence that an American company would censor, just like it's done on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all the other platforms. They need it in the United States hands in order to have the ability to censor it. This is fascism.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said yesterday at a press conference he was still looking at the bill, still thinking about the path forward. So a lot of questions on whether or not this is going to have a chance on the floor in the United States Senate. Becky?
Let me get to you then, Mark. Lauren, thank you. Let's get to Beijing. Mark, what are Chinese officials saying about this?
Now, I played this already, but let's listen to the obvious jab at capitalists that the Chinese government officials takes right here. Is kind of funny to me.
You know, it's interesting. We've heard a lot of talk between the United States and China lately about trying to create a competitive business relationship between the two nations. But then we have this lingering wound being TikTok. In fact, Becky, it was almost a year ago to the day that we were talking about a hearing involving TikTok. But the feeling from Beijing is really portraying the United States almost as a weak competitor in the global arena. Just a few hours ago here in Beijing, I talked to a spokesperson from China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I asked him, regardless of what happens with United States lawmakers, there is this feeling of distrust toward Chinese companies from American lawmakers, but also American citizens. Let's take a listen as to what he had to say.
Even though the U.S. has not found evidence on how TikTok endangers its national security, it has never stopped going after TikTok. Such practice of resorting to acts of bullying, when one could not succeed in fair competition, disrupts the normal operation of the market.
When one can't succeed in the market, you do stuff like this. That's the how do they call them? Chinese Communist Party calling them out, saying, "Hey, capitalists, what's going on with the free market, bro? Thought you said you love some free market." True capitalists really hate that shit. You can see that all over Wall Street.
It undermines the confidence of international investors and sabotages the global economic and trade order. This will eventually.
And that is another economic. So the way they coming at it is not from a political angle. They're coming at it from, this is what you're doing economically by doing this. I guess, I mean, for a capitalist, I guess people who are, if he's looking for friendly capitalist ears to kind of help with this, I guess this would be the framing. So maybe that's the strategy of China, is to kind of have the framing. That's funny. The market is fascist. Yeah. Yeah. I see the trolls. Just let the trolls come. Let the trolls play. As long as you know they're a troll, then they're not, it's when we think the troll is a serious person. Just identify them and treat them like a small 3-year-old child. Not taking them seriously. But anyway, let's continue. All right, so let's get into some of the other items, but I do want to got some other receipts, but let's just look at some of the content of what the real reason why they're messing with I was about to say Twitter, but TikTok, and that is right here. So this is TikTok, and I saved a couple of videos just to give you an indication of what the sort of narrative that they're trying to regain control of. You're talking Ukraine war, but most recently you're talking about the Zionists and the genocide that's happening in occupied Palestine. So, but let's watch some of the videos, and we can maybe do a search and for some other videos. Let's watch some of the content that maybe they. Can you pause on here? Yeah, okay, you can. So, because I'm not on here that often, so I'm just figuring out how this works here. I don't know if you can expand this more, but I guess you can. All right, so this says Palestinian girl confronted an Israeli soldier in 2002. Let's go to the next video. Here's another one. Oops.
This video is for all the people that are saying that no Palestinian child would have been killed if it were not for Hamas. Let's talk about what the world would look like if there was no Hamas.
Because I see the question coming. Do you condemn Hamas for the atrocity? Yes, I condemn Hamas. I condemn Hamas. I condemn Hamas is the source of all evil. They're a reason for everything. And you know what? Let's for a minute imagine a world without Hamas.
Right.
What will this word look like? Let's give this word a name, and let's name this word the West Bank. Hamas has absolutely no control in the West Bank, and since the beginning of this year, only through August, 37 Palestinian kids were killed.
You're right.
No music festival, no paragliding, no Hamas. Since the occupation of the West Bank, 7,000 Palestinians were killed. No music festival, no paragliding, no Hamas.
This video is for all the people that are saying that no Palestinian child would have been killed if it were not.
Let's go to the next video.
Would not leave them alone.
As I keep researching and learning about what's happening in
Oh, actually, let me rewind this video because it felt like some of that was cut off. Maybe I was in the middle of watching.
I was taught that
Here we
Israel
go.
were the victims and that these Palestinian people were like almost like these annoying people who would not leave them alone.
as I keep researching and learning about what's happening in Palestine right now. I can't stop crying.
This is a call in to all Jews who support Palestine. When did you realize that the Zionist mythology of Israel was a lie?
Then why do so many Jews support Israel despite it committing war crimes against Palestinians? And the truth is, we're not fed accurate information.
Can you imagine AIPAC, the board of AIPAC hearing that? Their heads are exploding when they heard that. And we're going to listen to a video recording. Nick and I covered this a long time ago, and we've all heard this video, a recording of Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, on a leaked conference call talking about how we've lost young people, how the divide is not blue and red, meaning the divide is not the Republican Democrat. The divide is old and young. So we're going to play that later, but let's finish looking at some of the content on Twitter. And this is the content that we're talking about, why they're talking about banning. This is the content that's outside of the bounds of a U.S. empire narrative.
Because despite all these things that are happening in Gaza, I've not seen any footage of Palestinian people cursing Jewish people or Israeli people.
Seeing what is happening in Palestine right now and seeing how these Palestinians literally are thanking God as they're losing everything. I would be questioning my faith if my entire family just got wiped off. I need to figure that out because I'm intrigued.
Let's go to the next one.
So if it's not clear by now that the Israeli government has just been lying to everybody, recently a spokesperson from their government tweeted this photo, and he states that archaeologists found the remains of children's teeth from the October 7th massacre that they call it. And if we look closely, really anybody from the dental field can tell you that these are not children's teeth. These are adult restorations. You can see a bridge, a crown, It doesn't take much effort to Google what kids' teeth look like. It's kind of ridiculous at this point that people will actually fall for anything, and they don't put any effort into their lives anymore. And that's a member of the Israeli government posting this. It's not like some random guy in the street, you know, he's a spokesperson.
You hear this critique? Does this sound like young kids not having any information, having read anything about the topic? Is that what this sounds like to you? But this is how, when they talk about TikTok, kids are getting educated on TikTok. They would do a lot better to watch TikTok than to watch any of the cable news networks or the network news networks. Let's watch a few more of these. These are the types of videos, and I tried to get all like sort of viral videos that they need to regain control of the narrative, that is.
Spokesperson for their government, and he comes on their TV networks, and people are so indoctrinated that they'll fall for anything these days. So I just want to quickly remind everybody, don't stop posting about Palestine. Don't stop sharing these videos. Keep boycotting these chains that support Israel. We're actually making a big difference. A lot of Starbucks locations have been cutting their hours or just closing down.
Starbucks. You don't think Starbucks kind of called in, hey, could you guys do something about TikTok? It's having us lose our business. This is crazy, but it also shows how the people needs a different line of communication worldwide. Because when the capitalists want to take it away, they just take it away and say it's for your own good. Let's move to the next one so we can get through some of these.
I'm not exaggerating. A Palestinian child is killed every 15 minutes.
Let's try to wrap our minds around this. Every 15 minutes, a child in Gaza is killed, which means every hour, 4 children are murdered, which means at that rate, every day, 100 Gazan children are slaughtered. How has the world not frozen still to condemn this unequivocally? How has the entire global community not joined in solidarity to universally proclaim end the genocide, wherein half of Gaza are children being slain at the rate of 100 per day? There's no excuse for this. There's no justification for this. There's no sort of military tactic that you could say that this is other than genocide. This is genocide. And I understand certain statistics get so mind-boggling that we become desensitized, but do not let yourself become numb to the murder of children, the mass murder of children.
I'm not exaggerating. A Palestinian child is killed every 15 minutes.
Let's try to wrap our minds around this.
Let's go.
About the way that you addressed her. Do you have any regret? Or do you feel you could have expressed yourself differently? Or do you feel that it accurately represented how you were feeling?
I'm not going to waste my time talking about the report with Clarissa because this takes away from the point. You mentioned before there was a deadlock in the debate. There's no deadlock in the debate. There is terror in the debate. You are unable to debate with Israel because what's happened so far is we're witnessing the sick relationship between the United States and Israel. The United States has given a permission for Israel to have genocide on ground. And what's happened is we're seeing no one can say no to Israel. The United Nations isn't able to say no to Israel without repercussions.
When you hear what she's saying in that video? They're pulling their hair out. The Zionist lobby is pulling their hair out. This is George Galloway.
Because I'm feeling threatened by you. Don't come any closer to me. What's that up your jumper?
This is an Israeli flag. I'm an Israeli, Mr. Galloway. And you speak with fascists in Beirut. You interview Mr. Ahmadinejad for Press TV.
You're doing yourself a lot of harm here, son.
Yeah. I think you did a lot of harm by not speaking to my friend Elon and having a constructive dialogue with him. And sir, I don't have a question for you, as you can see, because I don't debate with racists. Thank you, sir.
Well, it's funny, the last time I saw that flag was on Saturday. And you can consult innumerable sources on the internet about this. The last time I saw that flag was on Saturday in Bradford, held aloft by the English Defence League. It's there, published in many newspapers, broadcast on many news bulletins. And I think that it's come to something, that England's fascist formation finds the flag of Israel the most appropriate flag to fly.
All right. I love these videos. I can go on and on, but I promise you, let's say maybe two more. Let's see, two more. What is this one?
How can
But
you
they
live
deny-
together
but they deny
if
my
you
right to
have
exist.
zero empathy, in your own words, with those people?
No, it's not what I said. I said I have zero sympathy to the fact that they lost their land. They didn't lose their land. They committed the crime of attacking the small state of Israel after the UN decision.
So that there is no, the truth is there is no empathy
I
between
have
you and the
empathy for
Palestinian
the
people.
tragedy of the leadership. Yes, I have empathy
this is
that
a-
they're under the tragedy of their leadership.
This is a very hopeless conversation, then, isn't it?
No, it's not, because I think what's really hopeless is to build imaginary solutions. What's really hopeless is to think that a terror organization is something that will never hurt you. I think that the imaginary and the illusionary discourse that many people have need to be
This is the type of videos that goes viral where they're
Israel
looking
is going to bomb a hospital.
they're
Not-
looking terrible.
Not this one that was bombed last week. Israel
Let's listen
is
to this
going
one.
to bomb a hospital. Not this one that was bombed last week. This one, Al Shifa Hospital, Gaza's largest hospital, which is currently sheltering more than 50,000 Palestinians seeking refuge from Israel's bombs and treating thousands of.
Now, you remember the narrative they tried to sell about hospital bombings or one of the hospital bombings? And then TikTok is given a completely different accounting of it. That's how the information spread so rapidly. And this is another reason why they're coming after TikTok. Remember, this is one of the events that happened. The hospital event happened, and then they came out and told the truth. And then the establishment got mad because the corporate media didn't take the time to wait so they can come up with an establishment lie. They try to come up with an establishment lie after the fact, and it didn't work. It did not work. And it was like, how did and then I remember Sean Hannity and Morning Joe were doing content on it, talking about we have to do something. And on social media, all this they call it misinformation is just spreading so quickly about the hospitals. That's when they knew they had to get rid of, not just talk about getting rid of TikTok, and suppress the other and keep suppressing the other social media accounts the way they've already been doing. Now, this has kind of already gone longer than I wanted to go, but it's okay. It is the main topic of today, and then the other ones are kind of shorter stories. Let's go to TikTok now. Twitter now to go over some of the other receipts to cover, get some more reaction about the story. And go over some other. So let's now go to this part here. Remember, I said we had a recording of David Blatt. I'm sorry, I keep saying David Blatt because David Blatt is the coach, former coach of the Cleveland Cavs. I keep saying that. But anyway, his name is Jonathan Greenblatt. Let's listen. This is the leaked audio of him speaking about the issues and how this, what he calls misinformation, the lies about trying to explain why there was such a large gathering of young people who are on the opposite side of Israel. So let's listen. Oh, let's see if it works here. Wait. Oh, that's just the picture. I gotta find the video. But anyway, I'll come back to that. So I showed you this video. So this is we're gonna come back to this article too. But I showed you the video on the DNA. This is another one. This is Margaret Kimberly, and she says, and this, my friends, is why they're going to ban TikTok. And this is another example of just a based TikTok clip. I did some content on this. There's actually it's either, what are those little shorts? I think it's a short. You can find this step-by-step directions on how to say you're not going to vote for genocide or something like that. But let's listen. This is another base video. This is the one that Margaret Kimberly points out.
I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide. Then you're going to be the reason Trump gets reelected, and then all your rights will be taken away. I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide. Well, when the Republicans get in office, they're going to go ahead and make this back to Jim Crow South, and Black people won't have any rights. I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide. I understand. I am anti-genocide too, but it would be way worse if anyone else was in the office that isn't blue. I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide. You think the Republicans won't kill Palestinians? They'll kill more. I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide. We need to think about us, and only us in this country. You think they'd care about you? Oh, for the love of God, I will not support anyone who supports and funds genocide. They brought this on themselves. You're just anti-Semitic. I'm still not supporting anyone who supports and funds genocide.
Step-by-step directions on how to respond to a Zionist. I think it might be something like that. But that's an all-time favorite video that I posted on X. Margaret Kimberly shouted out that video. I've already showed you the DNA video. And then, we're not going to read this article, but this is from The Hill, and it says, Rep. AOC said she will vote no on legislation forcing TikTok parent company to divest from the app or face a ban in the U.S. This bill was incredibly rushed from committee to vote in 4 days with little explanation. And this was I was speaking to. Warp speed. There's certain things that go in warp speed and they're never good. Not by this government. And I'm talking about warp speed as far as legislation. And this is the count. This is the vote count that Nick is shouting out here. Let's read what Nick says, and then we'll go to the video. He says, insane censorship bill passes the U.S. House in order to protect Israel and silence alternative news. The ruling class banned TikTok because empire propaganda was being debunked on the app. Every other excuse they make is exactly that, an excuse to crack down on free speech. And that's spot on. And this is from Hotspot. Somebody asked in the comments yesterday, what is Hotspot? This is Hotspot. Hotspot is an account that puts together these anti sort of empire content. Here is the vote that's showing the passage of it. Just a quick little video. It is what it is, guys. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Let's go to the next video now. And this is the reaction of a person who has content or a business on TikTok. They go on CNN and they're trying, I guess CNN is trying to get a feel on how people are going to react to this. Young people, Black people, Black ownership, I guess. That's who they're asking. So they reach out to this young lady, and I'm not sure they expected the response she gave. Let's listen.
So how would it change your business if TikTok were owned by an American company instead of a Chinese company?
I believe it would change the dynamics of TikTok. It would change the culture of TikTok.
Now, I don't know if you can hear her voice shaking. Now, it could be because she's nervous. I don't read it that way, but let's say that could be a possibility. I believe she's so upset about this, and she's trying to stay calm. That's why I believe her voice is slightly shaky in the beginning there. As she is trying, she is steaming mad about this, because you can tell by the end of her answer. Let me let it play.
I believe it would change the dynamics of TikTok. It would change the culture of TikTok. We will be limited to what we can say and limited what we can do, which is against the American way.
So how would it change
Listen to this
your
again.
business if TikTok were owned by an American
This is an
company
American
instead of a
company.
Chinese
This is
company?
the trait she said an American company would
I
have.
believe it would change the dynamics of TikTok. It would change the culture of TikTok. We will be limited to what we can say and limited what we can do.
Limited on what we can say and limited on what we can do. And she is a business owner, and they put her up here. Her name, let's give her the respect. Summer Lucille, I believe that's how you say her last name. It's an aunt of mine. She spells it that way, but I've heard it pronounced a different way before. But Summer Lucille is the way I believe it's pronounced. Founder and owner, Juicy Body Goddess Boutique. So I believe she runs her business, and there's like people that run their business on live and they sell stuff, sort of like a home shopping network, but it's on TikTok. And now I'm not saying she falls in that. She could, but I don't know her business well enough to know that. But this is them asking a business owner, a black business owner, a black female business owner. This is a target audience, a target constituency for vote boo no matter who.
Which is against the American way.
She's saying that an American company would restrict it more. American company would censor it more. That's what she's getting to. Let's go to the next one here, and this one by Ling Jingjing. I believe she's a reporter out there. Now she posts reaction from people on TikTok, and this is what she says: American TikTok users are very aware of why the U.S. wants to ban TikTok. The U.S. government is not interested in solving gun violence, growing homeless, growing cost of almost everything, but it's so eager to ban one app immediately. So they're not fooling anybody, regardless of what they're saying on TV. And I'll just read a couple of comments. She's posting just comments on TikTok and how people are not fooled by this. Here's one. Sounds to me like they want that TikTok money going to an American billionaire's pocket. If they do sell to an American company, I'm sure we'll be seeing 3 ads for every video we see. I'm going to miss it. It's been a big part of our lives. And also, we've learned so much on here. We're opening our eyes. This is what they don't want. And that's why they don't want it. And yet they do nothing about homelessness, shootings, healthcare, foster care, people losing rights. But let's ban an app. And it just, it goes on and on that. All right, let's go to the last part of this, which is the article. And I'm going to actually read all of it on here. I think I clipped enough that I can just read enough of it here, I believe. Or I can bring it up. I'll bring it up just in case I do want to read a little bit more. So how about that? I'll bring it up in the background. But let's read the snippet I got from this article. And it says, Biden says he will sign law banning TikTok if Congress passes it. You might be able to hear some emergency vehicles. Let me let them pass first. I'll say it again. Biden says he will sign law banning TikTok if Congress passes it. And here's a snippet from this article. This is from World Socialist website. There are deep growing fears within the ruling class that social media platforms like TikTok are undermining the imperialist narrative about the US-NATO war against Russia in Ukraine and the genocide being carried out by Israel in Gaza. This is about narrative. This is about narrative control. And the thing is, they know that cable news ratings is literally on a trajectory of just going down, down, down. They know people aren't watching corporate media. I'm not sure they think by banning TikTok, like let's say the ban goes into effect, do they think people are gonna go back to corporate media to watch Anderson Cooper? Do they think that's what's gonna happen? But let me get back to the article so we can get to some other stories here. Let's continue. It is a fact that independent social media publishing, especially posts exposing the crimes committed by the Zionist Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza, is cutting across the lies being told by the U.S. government and corporate media about the genocide against Palestinians. And I'll pause there. Didn't you remember the videos I showed you? This speaks directly to that. The videos I showed you are all critiques and analysis about what's happening in Palestine or occupied Palestine, but not from the U.S. narrative. And that's the problem that they're having. It's showing up in the streets in protests. It's showing up in the polls when not voting for Joe Biden. So this has become either enemy number one or maybe enemy number two, because enemy number one may still be trying to get money for Ukraine, because that seems to be the thing that they've been on and still going to stay on. Yes, here's another critique or another analysis of TikTok. TikTok live streams have shown me how absolutely psychotic Israeli and Zionists actually are. So you have a device that is exposing crimes, atrocities, corruption, and other points of views that people are relating to. Let's continue. Let me start right here. I'll read this part again. It is a fact that independent social media publishing, especially posts exposing the crimes committed by the Zionist Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza, is cutting across the lies being told by the U.S. government and corporate media about the genocide against Palestinians, especially the despicable lie that opposition to Israel and Zionism is synonymous with anti-Semitism. They can't sell that. If they keep us in separate rooms, they can sell us stories that we don't know. But if all of us, we're like collectively like, we don't buy this bullshit, and sharing it with others who could be vulnerable to that information. But then when they see true information on TikTok, they're like, okay, now I know. Let's continue with the article. In response, an effort is being mounted to get control and manipulate the content of the social media platform through methods of censorship. While Democrats and Republicans speak endlessly about unsubstantiated claims that TikTok is enabling the Chinese government to gather data on the American public, there has been repeated reports by the U.S. government itself that intelligence agencies and law enforcement are violating Fourth Amendment's rights by carrying out surveillance of the electronic communications of everyone without a warrant. Also, the transparent purpose, meaning this part of why they're canceling TikTok, this is the cover story, meaning this is what they mean by the transparent purpose of the bill is to whip up anti-China hysteria. China, they're stealing our information. So the transparent purpose of the bill is to whip up anti-China Chinese hysteria within the U.S., setting the groundwork. Like I said, they got to set these little seeds of propaganda so that it blossoms. And then there's stories that they can just drop out and you believe. So this is how you set the foundation to sell other propaganda down the line. This is what they're doing. Where did I leave off here? The campaign is based on unsubstantiated claims that the data of the more than 100 million US users of TikTok is being analyzed by the Chinese government to spy on the American population and manipulate public opinion. Confident of the bipartisan support for the bill, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise said on Monday that he would try to speed it to a vote under procedures reserved for non-controversial legislation requiring a 2/3 majority passage. So that's how they got it. It was an expedited process here. 1 second. This is the end of the segment, but there's somebody knocking at my door. Let me make sure nothing's wrong here. I promise it'll be like 60 seconds here. The fuck? Somebody's knocking at my door. I'm not sure. They're knocking pretty hard. So give me 60 seconds here. Okay, I'm back. My wife had locked herself out of the screen door. We have a screen door to our front door. I guess when she closed it, it locked on her, so she was locked out. So yeah, that was funny. But anyway, just to kind of wrap up and give a last thought. That was the last part of the article that I was going to read. I don't need to read the entire article. I took out the most important parts that was pertinent to the story. But more broadly, this is just, these are all signs of a collapsing empire and the things they're willing to do to sort of regain that power, to sort of regain that control. This is just one of many. This is not the only one. This is not the last time. This is not first time. It's not the last time. There's going to be more of this sort of repressive censorship coming. We saw it with the Twitter files. We're seeing it here with this pressure campaign to get this Chinese company to sell TikTok to an American company that can obviously be co-opted by U.S., NATO, CIA talking points. There's actually one more thing I did want to read here. This one right here. Speaking for wide layers of the American political establishment, Scalise articulated that the anti-China basis of the law, saying, quote, "We must ensure the Chinese government cannot weaponize TikTok against American users and our government through data collecting and propaganda." Amazing for that to come from a U.S. lawmaker, but that is what it is.